Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today, talking about our Bears, man. Come on in, Bears fans. Come on in. Let's get in here. The bye week is here. I know it's hard to go a week without Bears football, good or bad, and it feels like it's been a long time, but I think after that loss, a lot of people kind of took a pause and, kind of let their feelings gather up. But we're back here on a football Sunday, so might as well talk about where we are. But I want to talk a little bit about the division, and then I'm going to talk more about the Bears. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind. So this is all where we stand right now. Well, I'm doing this before the game starts, so this is before this week. This is where we are. You got the Packers at number 1 in the division at 4-1. Then you got the Lions at number 2 with 2 wins, 1 loss, 1 tie. Bears are third with 3 wins, 2 losses, and Vikings are fourth with also 3 wins, 2 losses. So the Vikings have 1 more conference loss than we have, so that's what you'll have there. But the Vikings are taking on the Philadelphia Eagles today, which seems to be a surging team looking to kind of make their mark again. And Green Bay and Detroit are playing each other, so someone will have a loss there. So if Green Bay wins, of course, they stay on top. If the Lions are able to win, I'm not going to pretend to know the formula, but that would give them a division win. That'll put them at 3-1-1, and the Packers at 4-2. So I think the Lions would jump up to number 1 in that case. And if the Vikings win, yeah. So it's all pretty close right now. Nobody's really running away with anything. All these teams have come to play so far. Ups and downs, but they've come to play. So as far as the stats, because people love the stats, and it's a good comparison. So when I first did this, I believe it was after 2 weeks in the season, and the last time I did the division roundup. So we'll kind of compare what we've been at. Let's start the defensive side. So total defense, as in total points allowed. Bears are number 3 right now, and we were 4, so we went up actually. Packers are number 8. They went up from 13. Vikings are number 5. They went up 10 spots from 15. And Lions are number 10, and they went up from 27. So everybody in the division has improved in total defense as far as how many yards or points they're allowing, And so all of us are in the top 10. So when we talk about black and blue division, that's what we talk about. Very interesting. We know about our defense. The Vikings, we had question marks if they could get back on track. Packers, we want to see if they could gel. In the Lions, they just never were in the picture. But now we're all, as far as points go, we're all pretty much up there in the top 10. Then jumping down to the run defense, as far as yards allowed per game, Bears are 6, and that's what we were last time. Vikings went up from 15 to number 9. The Packers went down from 19 to 26. And the Lions stayed the same at number 20. So Bears and Vikings still consistently as far as the yards allowed. We know the Bears had, with the Raiders, we had a little trouble with the run, but we still at 6. Lions still kind of towards the bottom. So are the Packers as they dropped off, but the Vikings are in the top 10. So kind of what you expected, a really good pass rush and secondary for the Packers. Not so much the run defenders besides Kenny Clark, but the Bears and Vikings have a good front that can stop the run. So in Lions, I'm actually kind of shocked. I'm shocked that they're in the top 10 for total points allowed because their defensive rankings are pretty bad. So there's that. And then in the pass defense, the Bears went up from 12 to 11. The Packers went down from 11 to 14. The Vikings went up from 13 to 6, so they went into the top 10. And the Lions went down from 24 to 29th in the league in pass defense. So, again, Lions defense all around not ranking well. Bears went up. Vikings went way up. A lot of improvement there. And the Packers went slightly down. So, as far as the pecking order, Bears defense and Vikings defense are the tops. I mean, that's what we pretty much expected going into the season. Even though the Packers have shown some good stuff, they still statistically don't rank high, but you got to think about in context like the Cowboys game where the defense did that job. The game was pretty much done, but I wouldn't say garbage time yards and stuff, but they allowed them to kind of come back. But they did their job in the first half, so there you go with that. Offensively, this is where it's ugly. Total offense as far as yards per game. Lions have stayed the same, number 8. Vikings went up from number 20 to number 17. Packers went up from number 29 to 25, and the Bears stayed the same at 30. So once again, Lions and Bears stay the same. But Bears darn near close to the bottom of the league. Packers were 2 at first, but they have improved that since then. So with the exception of the Lions, all of our offenses are below 15. So not a lot of fireworks as far as yards go. But points, which are important and can come from defense as well. Vikings went down from 12 to 15. Lions went down from 17 to 24. Packers went up from 26 to 12. And the Bears went up from 30 to 28. So Bears still ranking towards the bottom. Packers had a huge surge in points. Lions towards the bottom, even though with all those yards, they aren't putting up a lot of points, but they also aren't giving up a lot of points. So there's the way they've been winning. And so, again, not a lot of offensive firepower as you look at our division. As far as passing yards, Lions are number 7. That's up from 8. Packers went up from 26 to 14, so big jump. Bears went down from 28 to 30, Trubisky being hurt, of course. Vikings went up from 31 to 29. So Vikings haven't had a great passing game either. They leapfrogged us by 1 spot, though, but still struggling. And then the run game. Vikings are down from number 2 to number 3, but still top 3. Lions are up from 16 to 13. Bears went down from 18 to 26, and Packers went down from 19 to 23. So Vikings and Lions still pacing us as far as rushing. So that's kind of where it stacks up in the division as far as standings and as far as stats. So let's get to the Bears. As some of the stats point out, we know what's going on with our offense. It's part Trubisky injury, but part it wasn't looking great to begin with. So there's a lot of stuff going on, which part of it I find some of these fans funny because they were so loud in the offseason and now they're just completely flipped. But number one is the O-line. I mean, we had a lot of people scoffing at the idea of getting rid of Kyle Long, and I talked about that before. But at the end of the day, it's looking like he just isn't really helping us in the pass game or the run game. I mean, the thing about O-line, though, as I always say, is that 90% of your plays are good. If you give up 5 sacks, those are bad plays in the pass game, but that's only a small fraction of the whole total plays. So it's not like they don't do good things. I'm not saying there's no good things, but there's too many times where it's obvious liability and you just don't think he'll be the player that he once was. James Daniels is struggling, and I don't think it's a physical thing. He definitely has the agility to move. I think he could get stronger, but he has functional strength. It seems like he mentally isn't handling the assignments, which is shocking to me, considering how great he was in college at that spot for so long. but we don't know what he's been asked to do. We don't know what he's been asked to think about, but his snaps are fine. It's just that too many times we've seen blown assignments. And same thing with Kyle Long, and really the whole O-line has an assignment problem, but I've seen that from those two. Cody, I think, is perfectly fine at guard, but he's not a power player. And I've said this before many times. We just don't have power players on the O-line besides Kyle Long. And so we just have a lot of athletic guys, which is fine. I don't think the way we try to run the ball has catered to that. And then, of course, in the passing game, we just aren't as precise and efficient and quick as we could be. Because, look, a quick quarterback, and we're not talking about super dime accuracy or anything, but we're talking about somebody that can make quick decisions, really makes the O-line look better. And so we don't have that luxury right now. So the O-line is the first thing I'm looking at. And I've said before, especially after the Raiders game, I think the skill positions are fine. I see people talking about, Antonio Brown, or, maybe we should go for AJ Green, or we should do this. And I'm like, look, Allen Robinson has good, great talent. And Taylor Gabriel, even though hurt, you've seen what he can do. He has incredible speed. Anthony Miller still, I think, needs to polish his game up, but incredible talent. Trey Burton, Shaheen. I like all those weapons. Tariq Cohen, Dave Montgomery. I'm fine with all of it. The O-line is one of the big problems. Then you get to Mitch Trubisky. And we don't really need to talk about Chase Daniel. He's our backup. We know what he does. Mitch Trubisky, the big question everybody's still asking, is he a quarterback? And so I have not really entertained this a lot before this year, because I've always said it takes 3 years to judge any player. And honestly, quarterbacks can be a little longer. But it's the third year. We've only seen a small sample size. We'll see when he comes back. But I've already told you what I felt like. It looks like he either regressed a little or didn't progress at all. And partly because he is comfortable with being the game manager for the defense. And you can win that way. But again, you don't really stress the things you should. Instead of stressing protecting the ball, which is important, you don't really stress reading coverages better. You don't, really stress improving that accuracy. And some people think you can improve accuracy. So I personally think, as of now, and I think the year will prove it, Trubisky just does not have good field vision. And so we'll see. We'll see. But it all hinges on him. And as much as people talk about quarterbacks, and myself included, they get too much blame. They get too much praise. I agree with that to an extent, but there is no question that it's the most important position of the game. And so as good as the defense can be, it does not matter if we're punting and punting. Definitely not if we're turning the ball over and they're on the field all day. It doesn't matter if we hold opponent to 3 points if we can't score any points. And that's hyperbole, of course. But at the end of the day, the offense has to go through the quarterback. And especially when the run game isn't good. And so if the run game it was even good, they would just stack the box. And there's ways you can beat that, but your quarterback has to show some type of threat. That's the thing. It's not even about the yards and the plays. You have to show that you're a threat for a defense to game plan for a defense as a defender. If I'm sitting there and I'm playing a high-powered offense, depending on the way they line up, I'm like, okay, they could do this, and this. But when I'm playing Trubisky or offense like ours, it's like, okay, well, they only going to be able to do this. Because if they try to do this, it's not going to work. And that's the thing. It's not so much about the yards. It's the threat that you show up. And honestly, we have no threat. I mean, not David Montgomery, not our quarterback. Because we've shown that as good as the schemes are and as good as the route running is, when people are wide open, we don't always hit them. And so That is the thing that's kind of frustrating, but we'll see what he's able to do as he steps up. My recommendations, I mean, we kind of are where we are. People talking about trading stuff. We are where we are. As I've said before, if it was me, I think there's only one answer, and that's really changing the run scheme and really going to a heavy zone. It just lends to our strengths as an O-line. I would go to a heavy outside-inside zone attack, and then athletic Trubisky, build those bootlegs off of that so then he could make those play-action throws. And I would look more like the Vikings did, more like Denver used to, more like Atlanta did when they went to the Super Bowl. That's what I would go to, because then that can set up easier throws. But with Dave Montgomery's vision and ability and with our O-line, I think that's best for us. Because really, other than that, it's nothing I can say much in the pass game because we've done it. We nickel and dime. We do like long vertical concepts. We do the spread bubbles and the screens and all that. And some of it works sometimes, but overall, you got to mitigate what Trubisky has to do. Defensively, the numbers still prove pretty good. And I don't question that we're not a good defense, but there are holes, and not holes, but there are parts that we can improve, and people try to act like we don't. And I'm not going to go into the whole Raiders thing overall again, but I do think it showed you that there's things. Now, I already knew quickly people were going to be like, well, we didn't have Akeem Hicks. There's other times, not even this year, but last year as well, where I told you, like, a rough interior O-line run game can expose us, and that's just the 3-4. That's what it is, and that's the linebackers we have. And so if people choose to expose us or to attack us that way, then it's a possibility we could be exposed that way. We don't have downhill linebackers. Eddie has been pretty good, but HaHa is not a downhill safety, not on run game at least. And so it's something you got to look at. Prince has been okay. I mean, he's been exposed about as much as he was last year. I'm not too worried about that. Overall, I think we're fine. It's the same thing. It's the interior I wonder about changing that scheme up a little bit. Maybe doing more games, because a lot of times we go straight up man for man, which is fine, but I don't know if we're that capable. As much as I love Eddie Goldman, I don't think we're that capable to do that. And so I think scheming more for certain formations so you can play stunts and do different things against the run would help. And we'll see kind of how people choose to attack us after the Oakland game. But overall, it's the pass rush. I think there's too much time, too many times. I mean, we rotated a lot more with Isaiah Irvin. But honestly, he doesn't. I mean, he's better than Aaron Lynch. Everybody's better than Aaron Lynch, in my opinion. But he still hasn't provided much. And neither has Leonard Floyd. And so you still are leaning on Khalil Mack to take the heavy load. And there's sometimes where we blitz. And I just hope we don't get to a point where we're blitzing so often. But it is hard to ask the coverage to hold up every single play. And especially when you know exactly where you want to go against our defense, as Gruden showed, you can hit them up. And so the pressure is going to have to come from somewhere. It's a risk reward, but at this point, I think that's going to have to be something we consider, especially when we're talking about long tail looking into the playoffs. You got to consider that risk reward of blitzing, because you can't count on coverage to give you 7 seconds every time. And so I would like to see us get better at that. Yeah, and we're going, as far as our schedule, we're going into that stretch that I talked about in the season preview, where I was like, this is where I'm really paying attention to kind of how we fare in this stretch. But I didn't expect us to and I did call Oakland a trap game, but I didn't expect us to just look this bad in certain areas going into this stretch. But we got New Orleans, we got the Chargers, and both have been as good as we figured. I don't think Breeze will be back, so that's a different type of New Orleans, but still a dangerous one. The Chargers, and then we got Philly, who Philly is trying to make the case to be, one of the top dogs in the NFC. So this stretch, 2 at home, 1 away, is going to say a lot about this team. So anyway, go to the comment section. Tell me what you think about the Bears and everything that's been going on so far. Share your thoughts. Share it around. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.